focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks. Welcome to the Wealth on the Beach podcast with Daniel Alonzo. I am your host. As always, I'm bringing you some of the greatest minds in all of the world. And today we have the unbelievable stud, Brad Lea. He built Lightspeed VT into a multi-million-dollar global tech company from scratch. As its founder and CEO, his vision led to Lightspeed VT becoming the world's leading interactive training system. And he's proud to share it with others. In addition to being the CEO, he also hosts a top-rated podcast, Dropping Bombs. Man, if you guys haven't heard Dropping Bombs, you have not heard a podcast yet. It really is the real deal. And he wrote a book called The Real Deal. Brad has helped numerous companies like Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Grant Cardone, Tom Hopkins, good friend of mine, World Series Poker, Top Chef, Chase Bank, many others. Has been featured in Forbes, Huffington Post, Inc. magazine, and is a regular guest on several top-rated podcasts. The guy is a stud. Brad Lea, hey man, you've interviewed a lot of successful people, man. What are some of the most common things that you think of that successful people have?
Usually I see the most common things are perspective, the right perspective, gratitude, and the willingness to adapt. Most people think it's the strongest that survive or the smartest, but it's not. It's the ones most willing and quickest to adapt.
So how are we adapting, man? How do we adapt in these changing times, man? I mean, it's crazy. We got the coronavirus right now. What's this all about, man? How do we adapt and change in these, crazy times?
Well, I mean, it depends on who you are and where you're coming from. However, the only thing we've done is social distance and stay at home. What's the big thing? Like a lot of people want to watch these headlines. Folks, these headlines are sensationalized. Okay, now, again, I'm not downplaying the severity, obviously, because there are real deaths and real people with it. However, the hospitals will be overwhelmed. Our hospitals aren't overwhelmed. I just drove by some. I talked to doctors at Cedars-Sinai. They said there's barely anybody in there. So I don't know where all this overwhelming chaos is coming from. However, if you look at it from a realistic standpoint, all we've done is stayed home. So we've taken our face-to-face and moved it online. Now, if you're a brick and mortar that literally was determined to be shut down where you have no ability, you have to adapt completely differently than somebody that went from meeting people in person and now meeting people online. I train sales, closing, and persuasion. I always say the more hands you shake, the more money you make. Well, I used to tell people to go out to a mall and introduce themselves, go to networking events and introduce themselves. Now, go on Facebook and introduce yourself. Slide in somebody's DMs and introduce yourself. It's the same game, just different, delivery. So you just adapt depending on who you are and where you are. You might say something different. You might need to sell something different. You might need to do something different altogether. But at the end of the day, if you guys want to survive, it's adapt and adapt quickly.
And so you said sensationalism, the media. So I guess what the listeners have to really figure out is like, look, I mean, negativity sells, man, right? So is it that people are just sheep, man, and they just follow the crowd and they just get scared because the media tells us to be scared? I mean, what's that all about, man?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that that's a little bit of it. I think people, aren't going to click on headlines that are not interesting and not fearful and not, sensationalized. So they want to sell views. They want to sell ads, it's just business. But, to me, drive down to your local hospital. Now, again, don't go in. I always say if you go down to get tested for COVID, you'll probably get COVID. Like, stay away from the hospitals and the medical facilities and leave it for people that actually have the disease or the virus. But ultimately, most of us, if you look at some of the things online, that's telling you that, everyone's dying. But I've literally and I can give you some resources for it, but I've literally spoke with people that it's mind-boggling to them.
And so Brad, I want to kind of, go back into your past a little bit and talk about a little bit about your childhood, man. Where were you born? What was your childhood like, man? What was your childhood like? Tell me about that.
I was born in a place called Eugene, Oregon. Moved a little south of that called Cottage Grove. Grew up in Cottage Grove, Oregon. Kind of a blue collar family. Ultimately I think had a great childhood. I mean, played outside, cops and robbers, pine cone fights, things of that nature. Learned a lot growing up. But my dad was kind of the kind that thought that children should be seen and not heard. So I really learned to survive at a young age. So fortunately, that's carried over into my adulthood and allowed me, I think, an advantage.
Why do you think that's an advantage?
Well, because when a lot of my friends went off to college and started learning theoretically what was happening, I was learning what was happening factually, not theoretically. I was learning from the streets. I was learning from failure. I was learning from getting my ass handed to me. They were learning out of a textbook, which nowadays is no secret that is probably not the case. I always tell people I dropped out of high school in the 11th grade, and then now I have 4 MBAs and 2 PhDs. And everyone's like, "Oh, congratulations." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." They're like, "When did you go back to school?" I said, "I didn't. I hired them."
I like that. So the college theory in your mind is a bunch of bullshit. I mean, is that what you're basically saying?
Well, I'm saying you don't need college to be successful. I mean, I want my children to go to college for one reason, only for the experience, the relationships, the networking. You're not going to be able to replace that. But if my children said, "Do you have to go to college to be successful?" Oh, hell no. That's obviously not the case anymore. I don't believe the world is still asleep thinking that you need a college degree to get a job. Now, obviously, if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor that requires a specific degree, you do have to go to college. However, I would recommend that people go to college for just the relationships. That's all.
And so why do you say those relationships are so important in like a college? I mean, why not just, meet people wherever you're working or whatever you're doing? Why do you feel like the college relationships are important for people?
Well, just like it's important to get your kid in school a little bit early so they start to learn how to interact with people. I mean, you're still a young adult when you go to college for the most part, and those relationships can tend to last throughout your life. Relationships that you make when you're 50 are not going to be lifelong relationships. However, I believe that relationships are the new economy, and everyone should be very, very interested in learning how to find, attract, and nurture good relationships. I think the most important relationship is the one that you have with yourself. Most people, I think, limit themselves. They have self-limiting beliefs and behaviors. And ultimately, I think it's because they don't really like themselves deep down. So I'd recommend that people focus on relationships, the first one being the one with themselves.
So it is, when the United States pushes college, do you think there's some sort of conspiracy towards that? Do you think that they just want people to do something? I mean, why do you think there's such a big push by the government to make sure that every child has a college education? Because I have a big problem with it, Brad. I mean, I think that, in a lot of ways, college is a huge scam, and it's damaging the time value of money for a lot of people out there that are wasting so many years of their lives thinking that they're going to get ahead with this little piece of paper, when in fact they should be learning the real world. They should be getting out there and working.
Well, I think it's also the just life, ultimately, because they're antiquated. I mean, it's hard to change, in certain cases when you're a large organization with a lot of bureaucracy, which is the government. So plus they make money on loans, et cetera. But in the olden days, a college degree is what made you worthy and proven that you're somebody. So a long time ago, it did apply. It was, you better get a job, because high school dropouts or greasers or whatever they used to call them, they didn't do very well. And the reason why is because all of the old fudgy, people in corporate bureaucracy said, you better have a college degree. So if you didn't have an associate's degree, you were kind of in trouble. Nowadays, nobody needs an associate's degree. Nobody needs any kind of degree to get good work. Again, to be successful, you don't need a degree. I dropped out in the 11th grade. And now throughout high school, I was testing at high levels. I eventually went back and got my GED only because I wanted to. But at the end of the day, if I can build an 8-figure company going on 9 with 0 college credits to my name, what's that tell you? You obviously don't need it. You can be successful without a college degree. I think if you want to go, quote unquote, waste your time for 4 years and get in debt, you better hope that degree is how you're going to make your living. That's what I would recommend. Otherwise, go because you want to meet people and enjoy the experience and build some relationships, learn some things. I think it's a great idea. I like the idea of college. But again, college is because I want to meet people. I want to build relationships. I want to learn some things. I want to network. Technically, if I was that age again, I'd want to get laid. I'd want to find some ladies,
Great answer. I like it. All right. Good kid, bad kid growing up?
I was a pretty, well, again, under the age of 18, I was a good, bad kid. Meaning I was a clever little son of a gun, and I wouldn't be afraid to steal, lie, cheat, but only like businesses and things, not people. So I was a good, bad guy. You know what I'm saying? Immature, irresponsible. But thankfully, when I became an adult, I'd already learned the lesson and stopped doing shit like that. So I was a good, bad kid, I would say.
Did you ever get in any fights at all growing up?
Yeah, just a few. It took a lot to get me to fight because I didn't really like fighting. I was afraid to fight, even if the person was small. But if you pushed me or cornered me and I had to fight, I would, and I would always win. And it never made me a bully. I was never a bully. But I think the reason I never lost is because usually when people pushed me far enough, my adrenaline and my fear was so, exacerbated that the adrenaline allowed me just to be this super dude. But nowadays with MMA and all the stuff that's out there, dude, I went and got a black belt in Ching Ching Pow. Just that's all I need. You know what Ching Ching Pow is?
No.
That's where if anybody comes up, you just take it out and you go Ching Ching Pow.
Oh, that's good. That's a good visual. And we're on a podcast here, so they'll have to wait till it comes out on YouTube to see that. But that was a great visual. And so, I mean, as far as when you think about your company today, it's visual learning, man, right? Explain to us exactly what Lightspeed VT does and how it works.
Well, Lightspeed VT is a technology, a web-based technology that allows you to create, deliver, track, and measure interactive content, usually video-based. It was invented out of necessity. I was traveling around training people. I was charging $10,000 a day to teach people. And I realized that it wasn't working very well compared to where I had been in the past, where I was very successful at training people and developing top-level salespeople and sales managers. So ultimately, I quit my job to go out on the road to train people for myself. I worked at a company, and I just couldn't figure out how I couldn't get it to work as well as it used to. And so I did some comparing, and I found out that there's 4 key ingredients to effectively train someone that I wasn't aware of. That is good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. Without good content, like if you teach people effectively to do it wrong, they'll do it wrong. So you have to have good content to begin with. Then you have to have repetition. That's why school's 12 years, not 12 days, right? We say our ABCs 1,000 times. Repetition is a key to learning. And then practice what it is that you've learned. And then accountability, being held accountable and holding yourself accountable is critical. And most businesses, they're training people by exposing them to the good content, but there's no repetition, there's not enough practice, and there's no accountability. So when I realized this, I developed Lightspeed VT to allow me to deliver, track, and measure the same content I was there to deliver in person. So I could do it with repetition, and I could practice and role play with people. And then I could hold them accountable by delivering notifications and reporting to track them. So I built it out of necessity for me, and it turned out it started working out for a lot of other people. And that's what I always say, man, if you want to make $1 million, just, solve 1 million problems.
So was it hard in the beginning? I mean, to get this thing off the ground, or did they start flying pretty quickly?
No, it was very difficult. Matter of fact, for 8 years, we didn't make any money, and everyone said I was crazy. No one's going to train online. Nobody's ever going to do this. But I believed it, and I just broke it into 90-day increments. I tell people, if you want to get anything you want in life, I can show you how to get it in 90 days. And they're always like, what do you mean? You can get anything you want in 90 days. Here's what you do. Number one, you got to figure out what it is that you want. Because a lot of times people don't realize it's harder to figure out what you want than it is to get it. A lot of times people don't understand that. They don't even, if you ask the average person, hey, tell me what success looks like, they won't even be able to tell you that. I'll make money. How much? I don't know, millions. Well, you don't know. Like, you better know down to the penny. What does success look like? How much recurring revenue? How much monthly? How much annual? Where you live? Who you hanging out with? What's going on? Like, they cannot determine and specifically tell you what success looks like. Well, if you don't know what someone looks like, how are you ever going to find them? Same thing with success. How are you going to find it if you don't know what it looks like? So I would say define your success. Ultimately, what was your question? Because I just went off track for a minute.
Well, no, I mean, and just kind of veering off into, like, why is it important that, expound on that. Why is it important that really people know what they want? And why is that so important that people get that?
Yeah, well, most people don't understand what it is they want, but in order to get there, you have to kind of identify it, right? So knowing what you want is the first step in getting it, right? You have to know what it is that you want. Oh yeah, I remember now, 90 days. Here's how you get anything you want in 90 days. Number one, you have to determine what that is and what it looks like specifically. Then you look down and you work your ass off for 90 days. Then you look up. And if in 90 days you look up and you're not where you wanted to be, then look back down and do it again for 90 more days. And that's literally what I did to build Lightspeed. For 8 years, people would say, how's it going, man? I'd be like, oh, dude, it's nothing yet, but I'm telling you right now, in 90 days, it's going to be huge. And then sure enough, 90 days later, someone will be like, hey, how's it going? Oh man, there's some deals working. It's unbelievable in 90 days. And I hadn't realized it until I looked back that I literally built the company in 90 days. It just was 20 years worth of 90 days. And I had to believe that in 90 days, major stuff was going to happen, or I might have given up like a lot of people would. We didn't find any success for about 8 years. And then time caught up, internet caught up, and people started actually taking it a little more seriously. And now, of course, we're all online. My phones are blowing up because of this coronavirus. Everybody realizes they have to go virtual. Zoom probably got millions of new customers.
Totally.
So now, 20 years later, well, now we're doing 8 figures, going on 9, and everybody says I'm a genius. Well, guess what? I wasn't a genius. I just had consistency, and I just had belief. That's all.
And you just didn't give up, man. When everybody told you that you were crazy, that you were nuts, that why are you wasting your time and all that stuff. And there's so many entrepreneurs right now that they're having their friends, their family, their coworkers just beating them up, mentally, right? Because we all went through that. I did same thing in my business, man. Everybody told me I was nuts. Everybody told me it wouldn't work. And thank God I didn't give up. Do you ever feel like, you ever wake up sometimes, right? Or, in your beautiful home and driving your nice cars, and you have, I'm sure, a decent amount of wealth saved and things like that. You ever wake up and go, man, I'm so thankful that I didn't listen to that guy. Do you have a couple of those people in your mind, like names of people that you wanted to make sure you prove them wrong? Did you ever have that at all?
Well, sure. I mean, there's always those people, right? But but I just, again, I mean, I wouldn't, looking back, I don't think, I did anything that was undoable. In other words, anyone could have done what I did, or anybody could have stuck with it with how I stuck with it. I stuck with it because I truly believed in 90 days it would turn around. If someone told me, bro, it's going to be 8 years before you make any money, I don't know that I would have said, okay, let's continue. I thought it was 90 days away the entire time. Like, so that's why, again, if you're going to eat an elephant, you don't try to eat it all at once. Just little bites all the time. Pretty soon you've eaten the whole thing. So that's how I won. And that's what I would suggest people do. Don't try to figure out how to get to the big answer. Figure out how to get to the little ones, just like decisions. I believe the choices you make determine the road you'll take. And more people try to worry about these huge life decisions when they need to worry about the little ones. If you can successfully make little decisions, the big ones take care of themselves. If you constantly make bad little decisions, then you get in the habit of making poor choices. And next thing you know, you can't get rich making poor choices. It's impossible. So you have to get really good at making choices, even the little ones, daily. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I mean, as far as do you remember like that mentor? Did you have any real solid mentors growing up, or was there somebody that really believed in you, or you just believed in yourself?
Yeah, I believed in the concept of online training. It might have been on accident, but you cannot train somebody better in person than you can online. Now, when it comes to like mixed martial arts, obviously you're going to want to go into a gym and practice. You're going to want to go into a ring and practice, right? So you wouldn't want to learn how to fight online strictly. However, to get up to speed on all the moves, all the names, all the underlying disciplines and routines and diets and wraps and equipment, you could learn all that online. So when you walked into the gym, you were way, way up to speed compared to just walking in fresh. Okay, so you can accelerate your learning online. You can get the repetition. You can get the consistency that is not normally available without large expenses. So like, for example, if you wanted to learn from Tony Robbins one-on-one, it might cost you a lot of money. I don't even think he'd offer it to you, but let's say he did. It would be a massive amount of money, and it would take longer. Why? Well, because he's got a life to live. He has to go to the bathroom. He has to go to lunch. He has a family. If I virtualized everything he would have said and asked, because we have interactive video, so you can make interactive content, which means you can emulate what he would have asked in real life and capture the normal responses. But ultimately, if I could emulate what he would have coached you on for the 6-month period, I could make it available for $100 instead of $100,000 a day or an hour. So again, training online is just better than in person. That's all. And I think it took a little time for the world to catch up. And now I believe they're forced to realize, man, I better get online. So if you're an expert of any kind, you could create a course and sell it to people and businesses. I've got some customers making $5 million a month with their virtual training system. And all they did was recorded what they trained in person. And then now it's available worldwide in several languages on demand 24/7. So it's very possible to take a practice or a knowledge that you have and share it with the world. In turn, makes the world a better place as well. So it's a win-win.
I completely agree with you 100%, Brad. I mean, I believe what changed my business, and this was back in 1999 when, there was really not a whole lot of an internet going on. There was no virtual training. Is that when you started? Yeah. And so I didn't really, know about all that, the virtual training and the internet and all that stuff. But the truth is I put together DVDs. I sat up late at night recording myself, with my presentation, or CDs, or I remember I started with, in probably 1997, I had cassette tapes that I would duplicate out everything. So what you're saying in this day and age, there's no entrepreneur that couldn't use what you're talking about right now. I mean, this is huge, and more than ever with social distancing and and people being afraid to, I mean, you walk in the grocery store and they have little pieces of tape 6 feet away. I don't know if they're doing that in Vegas yet, but there's pieces of tape in the grocery store 6 feet away so you don't get too close to the person in front of you. It is wild what's happening to the world today. But guess what? The truth is, more than ever, people are virtual, online, doing stuff, learning, getting better. Tell me how to be a better closer, Brad. How do we become better closers, man? Can you give us a couple ideas, man?
Well, again, I think in order to become a better closer, you want to first try to become a better person. A lot of the times I'm trying to teach people, you know, if you want to close deals, you want to look for ways to help other people. Now, I've got a technique that I teach people to close deals. They go to what's called closer school. So closer school is my little class, and then I do closer school live where I coach every week. But ultimately it boils down like this. Every single person that sells you something, unless you said no, is just a salesman. The difference between a salesman and a closer is a closer comes when the salesperson or the customer says no. So like if you greeted somebody and you closed them on a deal and they never said no, you really didn't close anything, you just sold something, and that's the difference. So how do you get past any objection? That's what a closer does, is it makes them go from a no to a yes. Is first thing you have to do is identify the objection, isolate, and overcome. So like, for example, give me an objection. If I said, you want to get on Lightspeed, give me an objection.
Well, you know what? I just can't afford it.
Okay, so now there's the objection supposedly. Now, most people will give you false objections to begin with. They're called smoke screens. So first thing I have to do is identify and isolate the objection to make sure it's real. So I would say, so if you could afford it, would you move forward? Now, most people, believe it or not, will say, well, then I would look around. Well, that's because that wasn't their objection. That's the one they gave you. And you can't close a fake objection. You can't close a smoke screen. So you have to continue this process until you get the customer to say yes. You move them from a no to a yes. Now, this isn't they didn't write a check yet, but they went from no to yes. So if that was your objection, I would say, so if it was affordable, would you move forward?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you just went from a no to a yes. And so now my problem that I have to solve is you think it's affordable. So now I'm going to go look at the process of the sales process. If I didn't build enough value, that's the problem. Because if you want an exchange to happen, you have to raise the value of your product or service higher than this customer has for the value of their money. So if you're saying it's too expensive, it's only because you don't value it higher, more. So I would first go back and determine whether I built a lot of value. Now, if I built a lot of value and you just absolutely can't afford it, Daniel, I might just be fishing in the wrong pond. In other words, you can't close every deal. You can't close someone on a $30 million house if they can't afford the $30 million house. If you're like me, I'll take a $30 million house. Where do I sign? Can I afford the payment? Because I don't care about the price tag. I care about the payment. And I used to close people at car dealerships like that all the time. They'd come in, they'd be worried about the price of something. And I'd say, let's be honest. You're not paying a check, are you? They'd say, no. And I'd say, so what you're really trying to worry about is a payment, correct? They're like, yeah, you want a payment you can afford. So if the price was $90,000, but the payment was $300 a month, you'd just have a hell of a lot nicer car, wouldn't you? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'd say, well, then let's get off the price and let's worry about the payment, because that's really what you have to deal with and live with. And they're like, yeah, I guess you're right. And then I just get them off price, because when they were on price, all they want to do is grind you down to no profit. So there's a number of ways, but your question was, how do you close? Well, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. You better figure out how to prospect first. Prospect in the DMs, prospect by making comments on Facebook posts, especially ads. When someone's running an ad, you see people making comments on those ads. Well, the person that ran the ad spending money, so that's someone you want to talk to and know about. And then the people making comments to or for, against or for the ad will tell you, depending on what your service are selling, what you can start to talk to them about. But it hasn't changed. It's just changing the way we do it. It's shake more hands, make more money. The more hands you shake, the more money you make, right? Period. So now once you increase the volume of people you're talking to, you'll make more money. But if you want to take the next step, it's just to get better at what you're doing. And then that's identify, isolate the objection, and then solve it. So to your example, you said you can't afford it. And then I got you to say, yes, if it was affordable, then it would be. So then I would keep trying to solve it. So like, what is affordable in your determination? Am I selling you the right product? Can I take it away from you? Can you afford it? You just don't want to buy it. So all of those factor into these conversations. That's why it's hard to give you just one answer.
Yeah.
But the answer is you identify and isolate the objection, and then you solve the problem. So like I've brought it up to people. Hey, if I could make it more affordable, would that earn your business? And they're like, well, yeah, if I could afford it, I'd love to have it. Fantastic. What can you afford a month? Well, that's the thing. I really can't afford anything. Well, if you can't afford anything, well, then that tells me that you probably need it worse than anybody, right? Because at the end of the day, if you can't afford it, that means you're financially crunched, and my product makes you money. So it's really, you can't afford not to have it. Here's what I suggest you do. I suggest that you spend some money now while you have some, because pretty soon, you're going to deplete your resources if you do nothing. So I would ask that you invest some money right now. So within 30 days, when normally you would be depleted, you'll have a recurring revenue model to utilize to make even more moves. Does that make sense? Oh, absolutely. Boom, pulled the trigger on something he couldn't afford. Well, again, he couldn't afford it because he couldn't justify in making the investment.
Powerful stuff, man. And you made mention to something right now. You talked about prospecting through DMs. And I think that, you're obviously killing it on social media right now. I love your videos, man. I mean, so much value, such great content right now you're putting out. How important is social media in the prospecting process now, man? It's huge.
Yeah. Here's the tips I would give. Take your profiles off of private, okay? Or make a new one that is not private, because at the end of the day, when people hit me up in the DM, the first thing I do is look. If it's private account, half the time I don't even respond. Why? I don't know who you are. You could be a scammer. You're not even proud enough of who you are that you can't let me see who you are. Not interested in doing business with you. So at the end of the day, I'm not knocking on private accounts. My wife has a private account, but my wife's not DMing people trying to get them to buy things. Okay, so at the end of the day, private accounts are fine. You want to stay private. But in this day and age, you better move online. And the answer to your question is vitally important. Your social media is kind of like your reputation. It's kind of like your credit rating.
So it's the world we live in today, man. I mean, it is like, it's nonstop. I mean, I look at the last 2 years, I've been doing social media the right way. I did it wrong for a lot of years before I actually went out there. I spent some money, by the way, got some people to teach me how to use this shit the right way, which most people, I mean, look, there's only so many like food pictures I want to see of people. I mean, if you're trying to sell something, but you're showing me pictures of your food all day long and your kids all day long and you're, working out all day long, but yet you sell a totally different product. Are people making mistakes out there when it comes to social media or what, man?
Well, absolutely. But I would recommend that you do post pictures of your kids and things. But again, that's a personal profile. We're talking about how do we make money with our social media profile. That's the difference. And ultimately, you're exactly right. I don't care what you had for lunch, bro. I care what problem you can solve for me. I care about where you can get me to transform. In other words, I'm not buying your product or service. I'm buying the result of it. So if I'm looking at your social media page and you like black labs and you like Camaros and you like, 6 old Mustangs, great. But now again, I might build a little rapport that way, but what's telling me and what's getting me to visualize that transformation, that result, that's what I'd be focused on. And like you said, you paid somebody, dude, that's smart. If I could go back, everyone always says, if you could go back, what would you do different? I'd only do 2 things different. I would seek knowledge quicker and I would invest money more wisely. I spent a lot of money trying to impress people and it was a waste of money. I always say if I had all the money back I spent trying to impress people, it'd be impressive. But ultimately, you know, learn quicker, seek knowledge quicker, and invest more wisely. Other than that, I wouldn't do anything different. So kudos to you for reaching out and, you know, hiring that expertise. A lot of people will keep talking crap about courses and mentors and coaches because there's a lot of bad ones out there that are just milking the system. However, it's still the way to go. If you want to achieve something, find someone who achieved what you want, pay them to shorten your cycle. You know, they can turn it from years into months, from months into weeks, from weeks into days. It's worth the money. People say there's no shortcuts. Bull crap, there are shortcuts, and you should take them.
Yeah, beautiful, man. I mean, people are afraid though? Do you think people just worry so much about what people think about them? Is that maybe a challenge that people are having on social media right now? I mean, you see that at all?
Big. I don't know, again, if you're listening to my content, but one of the things I say is so many times people are afraid of the hate that they'll never find the love. Meaning, I put out what I put out. I don't care what it is you think about me because I think enough of myself. See what I'm saying? I've repaired the relationship I have with myself. I know I'm a good person. I know I'm looking to help people. I know I'm in the right place. I'm not a scammer. I'm not looking to hurt anybody. I'm looking to help everybody. So if I put something online and I hear some little prick hater talking dick, because they're always out there, it doesn't bother me one bit. But guess what I also find? Right now I'm up to, on my social media, let's see here, on Instagram, keeps raising for some reason. Let's see here. I think I'm up to 278,000 followers. Okay, guess what? Starting to get somewhere. Okay, if I would have been afraid of all the hate, I never would have those 278. See what I'm saying? So everyone's so worried about what other people think about them. And the reason why is because I think they need to repair the relationship with themselves. They're afraid, they're more concerned with what you think than what they think because they don't value themselves. They don't have any self-worth or self-love. You know, in order to fix that, I developed a little program I'll give you right now if you want. Number one, you got to forgive yourself. Okay. You got to apologize and forgive yourself. Everybody's quick to say sorry to someone they want to repair a relationship with, but no one ever says sorry to themselves because we're not aware we've been screwing ourselves for years. Okay. So apologize to yourself and forgive yourself. Then number two, I want you to commit to do everything you say you're going to do. You're the only person that gets to decide. You can just not commit. That's all. You get to choose what you commit to. So don't act like it's a big pressure to do what you say you're going to do. Actually do what you say you're going to do, or don't say it. That's step two. Step three is set 10 small goals a day. Everybody wants you to tell you to set these humongous goals. Like, dude, I've been setting humongous goals my whole life, and every time I fail to reach them. And so deep down, subconsciously, I'm losing. I lost. I failed. I lost. I failed. I lost. Well, why do I keep wanting myself to fail and lose over and over and over? Well, you know, it's better to shoot high and come in short. Not necessarily for this, not for this purpose. This purpose, I want you to set small goals that are very attainable because I want you to win and win. The subconscious mind replaces those images. The subconscious mind replaces those images and allows you to start winning and winning. And pretty soon your subconscious mind remembers, hey, this guy's a winner. This person says what he's going to do, or she. So commit to 10 small things every single day and make sure that you do them. And then step 4 would be weed out your garden. Notice the people talking shit because you'll start to notice them. Oh, Daniel, you don't want to come hang out? Oh, you Mr. Cool now? Oh, you don't want to hang out with us anymore? Are you Mr. College boy? You know, whatever they say, you'll notice them. Even if it's your parents, shut them off. Do not accept what they're saying because what goes in is, again, going to interrupt what I'm trying to help you do. And all we're trying to help you do is replace the imagery with positive wins. You're a good person. You don't lie. You do what you say. You're going to win. You're winning. You're winning. You're winning. So that just goes. Now, 60 or 90 days later, believe it or not, you'll naturally start to feel like you deserve a little more. You know, if you're in a bad relationship, you're going to start to look at your partner like, who are you to talk to me this way? If you're in a dead-end job, you'll start to think, man, why am I deserve more money. And see, again, those haters will pop up. Oh, you deserve more money? Are you Mr. Big Shot now? Get rid of those. This is an ongoing thing, guys. This isn't something you do and you're done. It's something you do always. But keep an eye out for those people. But after about 60 to 90 days, you actually start to feel like you deserve a little more respect, and you do. And you'll start to feel like you deserve a little more money, and you do. And ultimately, you'll start doing more. Because when it boils down to it, Daniel, here's the secret. Do more, get better, and scale. That's the secret. Everybody says, you know, how do we get rich? Do you want to get rich? And by the way, rich is a perspective. What does successful look like? Well, there is no key to success. It's a combination, and everyone has their own. What does success look like? Once you determine what it looks like, now you can go get it. But ultimately, man, you have to literally do more, get better, and scale. That's how you do it. So anyway, after doing this consistently, you're going to start to feel like you deserve a little more. You're going to walk a little taller, and believe it or not, you're going to demand. You're going to start feeling like you deserve more. Most people will beat you down for that, by the way. Oh, you arrogant prick. Who are you to think you deserve more? Oh, now you're highfalutin. You see what I'm talking about? They'll start appearing. You got to don't listen to those people. Keep listening to yourself. Keep doing what I'm telling you, and you're winning, you're winning, you're winning. Pretty soon you'll deserve more. You'll feel like you deserve more, and then you'll start doing more, and then you'll start getting more, and then the cycle starts all over. And next thing you know, man, your whole life is different. You're like, holy moly, dude, that worked. And it worked because you repaired the relationship you have with yourself. A lot of people, Daniel, they're making bad choices because subconsciously they don't want them to win. Your subconscious can be your enemy if you don't watch out. It will make you make the decisions that are keeping you down.
It's called self-sabotage, man. A lot of people are self-sabotaging their ultimate success because they just can't get it right in their own minds. And by the way, that was a part of my challenge early on, Brad, is that, I envisioned myself as just a short, uneducated little Mexican kid that had no money. And so I was intimidated by so many people. And then when I started to even have some success, I kind of limited myself because I said, holy shit, Daniel, who do you think you are, man? You're not that smart. How could you be making all this money? How could you be having all this success? You're not even that smart. I mean, maybe you're just lucky. And I started to put myself down, and I saw my success stall a little bit until I figured that out. And I think that, when you talked about forgiving yourself and then just totally committing to doing what you say you're going to do and set those small goals every day, man, I got up, Brad, and I wrote down every night before I went to bed, I wrote down the things that I needed to do, the goals that I had for the next day. And man, and shit, I weeded the hell out of my yard, man. I mean, I got rid of everybody. I mean, still to this day, I'm sure my old buddies in high school, they still talk shit about me. And they used to say, are you a millionaire yet, man? Are you making $1 million? And it just rings in my head. And as I wake up in my $3 million home today and completely been financially independent since I was 28. And I just thank God, Brad, that I didn't listen to those assholes. And so, hey, man, this has been effing unbelievable. That was like, you were in the zone right now, dude. I mean, you were like on fire. And I appreciate you for that. Hey, couple last little ending deals here. You have a favorite book, man? I mean, how do you self-improve?
I think my favorite book is The 4 Agreements.
Okay.
Don Miguel Ruiz. Go read that book. That is an unbelievable book. And I self-improve by, fortunately, Lightspeed is used by a lot of the top subject matter experts and thought leaders. So, they become friends, and I can text them, and, I seek their counsel in a lot of ways and a lot of times for a lot of things. So I'm fortunate. I plug into people, I plug into relationships, I plug into courses and things like that, but mainly books, audio books, things like that. Absolutely.
How about favorite movie?
My favorite movie of all time would probably be, of all time, I would bet, is True Romance. Quentin Tarantino's first movie, by the way. Most people don't know it. Most people have never heard of True Romance. If you go rent it to this day, I'm telling you, it'll be one of your favorite movies. If you like action, I mean, everybody's in it. It's my favorite all-time movie. My favorite Western is Tombstone.
Okay. Love it. Favorite food?
I'm a steak and potatoes kind of guy, beautiful New York strip with a baked potato, and, STK is my favorite restaurant.
Yeah, I saw you at the Palms. I don't know if you remember that, but I saw you at the Palms, said hi. We were, what's that, 9, right? Or did they change the name? I think it's, what's the Palms restaurant?
It's called Scotch 80 now.
Oh, Scotch 80 now, yeah. Ice cream or cake, man?
Ice cream.
Ice cream, love it. All right, Brad, we've gotten so much value today, man. It's been unbelievable spending some time with you. Tell us how to get a hold of you, because there's a lot of people that want to follow you right now. There's a lot of people that will be excited to meet you. And I know there are some major thought leaders out there that I'm friends with right now, that they're going to be contacting you saying, man, how do I get a part of that, Lightspeed, and what do I got to do to be a part of that? So give us all your info, man.
Well, you can just Google me, Brad Lea, that's Lea. You'll find me. It's impossible not to. I've got a lot of articles and blogs and things, so you'll find me. Instagram, just the real Brad Lea. It's spelled Lea is the only different. Most people say, is that Leah? I say, I don't know. Do you drink Tia? But no, it's Lea, Brad Lea. You'll find me. If you're interested in Lightspeed, either DM me, find me, reach out, or just go to Lightspeed VT as in virtual training, Victor Thomas, lightspeedvt.com. I waived all the setup fees. It used to cost $25,000 to set it up. I've waived that for all your listeners.
All right,
I did it. I've done it permanently. The coronavirus, I don't want people to spend a lot of money setting up a platform, even though it'll make them money or help them train people better. I waived all setup fees. Right now, there's no expense to getting it spun up and going. So please, if we can help you, reach out.
Yeah, you better believe it, man. We'll be talking for sure. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Brad, for coming out on Wealth on the Beach podcast with us today. We appreciate your time, man. I just want to remind everybody to make sure that you dream bigger than ever, but make sure that you do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.